Okay, I think I got it. Sorry about the technical difficulties. We are going live to Facebook. Here we go. Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. Welcome back to the Thriving Creative Podcast. I'm so excited to be here today. I had a couple of technical difficulties getting it set up, but here we are. And if you are hearing this live on Facebook, I would love to see you in the chat. Go ahead and pop in any questions or comments or emojis as we go along. I would love to see what you have to say. And if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. So, who am I? What am I talking about? I am Gabrielle Senza, the host of the Thriving Creative Podcast. I am an artist, an activist, an educator, musician, an empowerment coach, among other things, I suppose. And it gives me great pleasure to share the many, many things I have learned over the course of my 3+ decades as an artist and more than 5 decades on the planet. So, I learned a few things. And it just gives me so much pleasure to pass on whatever it is that may be helpful and useful to others so that they can thrive in their creative lives or in their regular lives, even if they're not specifically artists or musicians or people who are creating things, artistic things. However, I believe that we all have creativity within us and we can live our best life being creative and really honoring that creativity inside us. So that's why I put together this podcast. And today, actually, I'm going to be talking about the pleasure of process. It's not, you've probably heard this before, it's not about the destination, it's about the journey. And so that's what I'm pretty much going to be talking about today. And I was sort of thinking about that kind of magical feeling of enjoying like every single part of the creative journey of the thing that we're putting our focus and attention on, and not just like the big final reveal, the ending, the all of that. I know we live in a very results focused world, and it's all about like success and getting a lot of attention on your things, and then that can build up so much pressure in us, or that we put on ourselves even, to make it matter, to make it big, and we're only thinking about like how will this be received. And or in the like years ago as an artist, in the studio as a studio artist, I was often wondering like, is this going to sell? Will I be able to sell this? Will my dealer take it? Will, all this kind of stuff. And there was so much pressure to perform, to produce. And I want to kind of step it back and talk about how that is really just not sustainable in a lot of ways. It's exhausting, it's demoralizing, it's fill in the blanks. I'm sure you've probably experienced it yourself. And the social media is always presenting, you have to look this way, you have to do this, you're doing, make $1 million in 20 days and, whatever, these kinds of things. And so there are constantly all these messages saying, we're not doing it right. We're not doing it fast enough, big enough, well enough. We're not successful enough. So just noticing how I'm just noticing how that feels in my body, just talking about it right now. And I'm going to invite you to notice how these ideas feel in your body, as you think about that pressure. And as you look around each day, when you pick up your phone, you look at your social media, just notice how you're feeling inside. Does anxiety come up, like a pressure to perform better or to be better? Is there like some hopelessness that comes up? Or are you finding joy in what you're looking at online? Because especially these days, like with how dramatically our lives are changing with, climate crisis and political situations and the increase in violence and hateful rhetoric and stuff like that, There's a lot of stuff on the internet that is not going to hmm, feed us, nourish us, I should say. Um, unless you're looking for the stuff that can inspire and nourish you intentionally, because otherwise, just like with the news, we're going to get all the bad stuff and only tiny bits, if any, good stuff. And yeah, I'm a very sensitive person, very energetically, attuned to things that are happening in the world and around me. And I can get very, very overwhelmed very quickly. I can get overstimulated really quickly. And then what happens to me in that situation is I just lose steam entirely. Like essentially I just want to go crawl under the covers and go to sleep. I don't do that, but that's what I want to do. Uh, and I know that instead of doing that, which would be totally unproductive, um, not nourishing for me, instead I might choose to go outside and be in the sunshine, which I've talked about lots of times in this podcast and in other places, to get outside, connect with nature, be in the sunshine, even if it's just for a few moments, because it'll reset your system. And I think one needs to be really deliberate about where we focus our attention. And if it's on the doom and gloom and the news and all of that, we are not going to feel good in our bodies. We're not going to have healthy, um, systems, our nervous systems, our mental health. All of that can suffer from that kind of onslaught of negativity and doom and gloom. So, yes, just like having a healthy body, we need to intentionally eat well, exercise, get enough sleep. So the same is true with our mental health and our physical well-being, our spiritual well-being, is that we really need to intentionally take the actions that will feed us, our souls, our bodies, our minds, our connections, our heart, our spirit, all of these things. So anyway, I'm kind of going right off the script right away. So, but that's sort of my introduction about this. But anyway, the thing that I was reflecting on is that when we can step away from that results focused aspect of whatever it is we're doing, especially creatively or in our business, there can be actually like this really incredible magic that can happen. Um, and I find it super inspiring and actually even joyful. Like when I have a day where it doesn't even have to be a whole day, it can be like a couple of hours of being so present and so in the flow with the creative thing that I'm working on or the business thing that I'm working on, that I just feel so satisfied and excited to be like, oh, that was really nice. That just flowed. So today we're going to explore how to find joy in each phase of the creative process. And to help us out, we're going to draw inspiration from three incredible contemporary creatives who really embody pleasure in unique ways. One is Taryn Toomey, the founder of The Class. Another is Marina Abramović, the groundbreaking performance artist. And the third is Olafur Eliasson, an artist known for his immersive installations that are as much about the experience as they are about the final product. So let's dive in and discover how each phase of creating can bring its own special kind of joy. All right, so let's start at the very beginning. The idea generation and inspiration. For a lot of us, this is where the first little spark happens. It's where curiosity leads us to an idea or a feeling that we want to explore. But how many times have we let that spark fizzle out because we felt like every idea has to be practical, big, meaningful, monetizable, right? So that's where Taryn Toomey comes in. Actually, Taryn is the creator of The Class, which is a cathartic workout that blends movement, music, and mindfulness. And I was excited to talk about her today because I know the show generally is focused on artists, creatives, musicians, poets, writers, dancers. Um, but like I said before, entrepreneurs are super creative, and otherwise they wouldn't be creating their own businesses. And so it really works, whether you're a fine artist, a craft artist, or an entrepreneur, a creative person. So what was beautiful about that, and what's amazing about Taryn's approach, is her focus on ritual and self-discovery. Ritual and self-discovery. So for her, creativity isn't only about reaching an end result, like getting fit. It's really about tapping into the emotions, the thoughts, the energy that arise during the process itself, during the workout, for example. So each session of the class is an exploration, a chance to connect deeply with what's inside. And if you know me, you know that that's really important to me. Uh, and you'll hear more about that on other episodes and in my work. So Taryn approaches her work with curiosity and intention, not worrying if every movement is perfect or useful. So I actually did do a sample session of hers yesterday and found it to be really, really powerful. It's a pretty decent workout physically, but she starts off with centering and grounding and setting intentions, which we often don't do when we go to the gym, right? We might not do in, whatever exercise routine we might be starting online. So that was a really a beautiful thing to notice. And then she went beyond that with talking about, in the practice, noticing any thoughts or feelings, sensations, memories that come up, and actually moving it through the body, like really allowing ourselves to shake it through our body, and to vocalize it even. And certainly, if we're doing it in our own homes, there's, we don't have to worry about coworkers or whatever listening to us, hearing us grunting and howling and whatever it is we want to do, right? So that is so organic, and it's such an important process for processing and working through feelings and emotions and things that really can't even be talked about sometimes. And as humans, we've been, so separated from that ability that other animals have, which is if they're traumatized in some way, they have a scare or they're injured, they usually can like get back up, shake it off, shake it through their system, and then their bodies can come back often enough to move into safety where they can heal, right? So, but with us, we're often told like, don't cry, don't be upset, um, you know, you're not, don't be sad. So our emotions, our really important emotions, get dismissed and denigrated, even like we like they have no value, they shouldn't even be here. And that is so detrimental to our health and our well-being, and to the health and well-being of the people and creatures around us, because if we're sitting on an emotion, a pain that's within us, and we're not able to express it through our body, through our movements or sound in a healthy way, then we're likely to see it come out in a really unhealthy way, which costs us, sometimes irreparable harm to ourselves or our family or pets, or however people might suddenly burst and express the pain that could have actually been processed and regulated and healed, right? In another way, in a healthy way. So anyway, here's my challenge for you. The next time you sit down to brainstorm, try it the Taryn Toomey way. Embrace curiosity without putting pressure on the outcome. Okay. And you could start an inspiration notebook, whether it's on your phone or your computer or a physical journal. You can also just do a voice memo on your phone. So every time you get a little spark of an idea, jot it down. Don't judge it, don't analyze it, just capture it and let yourself explore freely. I did this on a recent hike when I was hiking alone in Tyringham, Massachusetts recently, and it was just so lovely. All of these ideas were coming to me, and I didn't really want to use my phone, but I didn't have anything to write with. So I just recorded, had it in my pocket, and just let it record as I was walking around. And you know that not every idea needs to become a project. Some ideas are just meant to inspire and excite us, and that's okay, right? Let yourself enjoy this part of the journey without any pressure at all. And then the other beauty of like noting down these ideas that come to you, the sparks, is you might look at your journal another time in another space, and you might be sitting down to meditate for a little while, and you flip through the journal and you're like, oh, that idea was so cool. And then you might find yourself thinking about it more, and then it does expand into something that you feel really compelled to do. And I hope you would follow that and take steps, even if they're just tiny baby steps, towards realizing that vision that you have. So let's move on to the next phase, which is experimenting and sketching, which is what I'm just talking about, really. This is where things get fun and a little bit messy. I think one artist who captures the joy of this stage beautifully is Olafur Eliasson. If you've seen his work, you know that he creates large-scale installations using natural elements like light and water and color. His pieces are interactive and often ephemeral, meaning they change depending on the environment and the viewer, or even the time of day. In fact, right now he has a whole display up at Times Square, which only appears for a very short time each night around close to midnight. You have to look it up to get the details. But instead of all of those really bright, garish advertisements that are just vying for your attention, just trying to grab your attention, instead, the space gets calm and it's just color and it's blurry and it's atmospheric. And it's such a shift from what you see in Times Square that it's quite an experience. So, but Oliver, art isn't just about, this final piece and you know, having a work that's going into a gallery to sell. It's really about the act of creating and experimenting and transforming materials into an experience. And his joy comes from the process of experimentation and the unexpected beauty that emerges along the way. So imagine taking that approach in your own work, letting yourself play and experiment, and maybe even make a few mistakes to see what magic comes from it. I found in my experience that a lot of magic comes from the mistakes. And so I'm comfortable with that. I'm comfortable with making mistakes. I'm comfortable with sitting with what is and what happens in the process of creating, even if it's sometimes messy and ugly for a little while. Eventually, usually I can see my way through it, and it's sort of a surprise, like, oh, I never expected that to happen. So here's an exercise inspired by Olafur Eliasson. Try setting aside 20 minutes for free-form creation. No rules, no goals, no judging, just play with materials and ideas or tools you wouldn't normally use. If you're right-handed, you could try creating with your left hand. If you typically make videos, try doing some painting, or dance or anything, and just not judge it. Just feel into the process of it and notice what discoveries you make along the way, because that will inspire you and it will connect you to something bigger. And so the goal here is simply to enjoy the act of creating without worrying about where it's going. Give yourself permission to to make a mess, to fail by our normal standards, whatever standards you hold for your own work. Allow yourself to fail. It's just for play. But even more so, it's for discovery. So I really hope you do that. This is really, think of it as a creative playground. Just have fun with it and let yourself explore. Okay, so next we come to the stage of creating and refining, where we actually start to build on our ideas and bring them to life, right? So for many artists, this stage can be incredibly satisfying. It's where we can lose ourselves in what's called flow, that focused, deeply immersive state where time seems to disappear. This is where Marina Abramović really shines. As a performance artist, Marina's work requires intense presence and commitment. She's known for long duration performances where she has to stay fully immersed in the moment, often for hours on end. So for Marina, the joy isn't in finishing a performance, it's in the act of being fully present and experiencing each moment as it unfolds, right? Just being fully in that moment, knowing, for example, like when she did the Artist is Present piece at MoMA, where there is a line of 50 or 100 or 200 people around the perimeter of the room, and she's sitting in one chair and there's space for another person to sit across from her, just looking into each other's eyes for as long as it takes for each person. It was really quite profound, quite profound. Some people were so moved to tears because they felt like it was the first time they'd ever truly been seen, right? And how much do we really want to be seen? Like every human longs to be seen and heard and celebrated, appreciated, valued for who they are, just exactly as they are, not in any other way, not like better, thinner, more successful, richer, whatever. No, just exactly as we are right now. Can you appreciate me for who I am, for how I'm showing up, for this being that's in front of you right now, just exactly as I am? And here's another challenge, totally unrelated to this whole podcast episode today, but it's important. It's coming to me. Can you give yourself that appreciation? Can you look yourself in the mirror and truly see yourself and accept yourself, appreciate yourself for how you are right now in this moment on this planet? You got here. You've reached this place. Can you be happy and appreciative of yourself? Commend yourself, appreciate, celebrate yourself for being exactly who you are right now. No different, not having to change a single thing, because you know what? You are perfect exactly the way you are right now, and you're supposed to be here right now in exactly whatever phase of your life you're in, whatever stage, whatever circumstances. It's okay. This is meant for you right now. There's something good in that. Can you see the good in you? Can you see the good in this moment? And really appreciate yourself. I really appreciate you. I appreciate that you're here. I appreciate that you've come this far in your life. I appreciate that you're showing up for yourself. Yeah, that's important. I feel very called to say that. All right, Marina's approach to being fully present in every moment as it unfolds is a great lesson for all of us in our lives. We're always looking to the future. Oh, if only this would happen, or if this could happen, or we're reflecting on the past and how, this happened and therefore this happened. And you know what I mean? And instead of just being like, okay, that's done and this isn't existing yet. So what about right now? What's happening right now? And especially in times like these, when there's a lot of upset and disruption in our lives, or may have disruption in our lives, it's even more vital to be able to find moments like that where you can appreciate this, even the smallest of things. Like outside my window, I can see this beautiful sunlight hitting the buildings across the way. I love sun. I love light. So for me, that really feeds me. Uh, just looking around and appreciating like what is there for us right now. My plants are still alive. I have not killed them. I was worried that I wouldn't be able to keep them alive. But lo and behold, they're alive, they're growing, and they're thriving. So I can appreciate them and I can appreciate myself for actually succeeding in keeping them alive. So anyway, I digress again. Uh, all right, so let's get back to it. I don't want to go too long today. Marina's approach is a powerful reminder that joy doesn't come just from getting things done. It comes from being deeply engaged in the process itself. So here's my invitation to you. The next time you sit down to work on a project, create a little ritual to help you enter a flow state. All right. Maybe it's lighting a candle. Maybe it's taking a few long, slow, deep breaths or listening to your favorite music. Let this be your signal that it's time to focus and dive fully into the work that you're called to do, letting each stroke, each note, or each word that you produce, that you create, that you share out in its form, let it bring its own satisfaction. Don't judge it, just be with it. Be in the ritual of being in the moment and creating from that place without judgment. And finally, we reach this last stage, which is completion. This can be one of the most challenging parts for many creatives because once something is finished, it's time to let it go. Or if you're playing around, you don't have to let it go. It doesn't have to go anywhere. Another challenge is knowing when to stop. When is it finished? Right? I was just talking with a client yesterday, and we were looking at a painting, and she's telling me where she's going with it, and she's afraid of overworking it because sometimes when we don't know when to stop, we can just overwork it, and then there's a lot of other stuff we have to do to fix it. So just be with it. Just be really present with the process and not be stuck on the completion, the perfection, any of that. It's hard not to. I know I've experienced that myself. It's still challenging for me. And I have managed to let a lot of that go and not be so fixated on, the perfection of something, because that's just not worth it. Not worth it. But anyway, sometimes we get stuck in that place and afraid of releasing our pieces into the world. If it is something you decide you want to put out into the world, we sometimes are wondering if it's good enough. Some of us work to put a whole show together, and there's constantly that question, like, is this good enough? Are people going to like it? But you know what? Rick Rubin says this in his book, The Creative Act, such a great book. The only audience you need to satisfy is yourself. Truly, honestly, you are the only person that needs to be satisfied with what you are creating. So here's where Taryn Toomey's approach to ritual and release can be so helpful. In the class, Taryn incorporates moments of release and processing, like I was saying before, giving participants the space to let go of emotions and expectations and attachments. And as creatives, we can do the same. When you finish a project, give yourself a little ritual to celebrate and let go. Maybe it's taking a walk, treating yourself to something small, or even just giving yourself permission to step back and appreciate what you've done. Completion is a celebration of the entire journey, from the first spark to the final piece. So embrace that moment. Embrace the completion. You don't have to let it go into the world. It's just ending that particular journey, that creative journey that you're just on. Allow yourself to feel joy in the act of letting go and sharing your work with the world, if that is what you want to do with the work. And really just allow yourself to know that the journey itself is the true masterpiece. Really, that's what's important. Your journey, your willingness to allow yourself to take the journey and to discover what you can find along the way. So let's take a quick moment to reflect on what we can learn from these three incredible artists. Taryn Toomey teaches us the power of ritual and release, finding joy in self-discovery and the experience of each creative session. Marina Abramović shows us the beauty of being fully present, embracing each moment of the creative journey with intensity and focus. And Olafur Eliasson reminds us to play and experiment, to enjoy the transformation that happens when we allow the process itself to unfold without judgment. Each of these creatives brings something unique to the table, but they all share one thing in common: a love for the journey. They're here to remind us that the process of the pleasure in the process itself is about finding meaning, beauty, and satisfaction in every stage of the creative process, not just the end. So, creatives, as you head into your next project, I invite you to find joy in each step. From the spark to the experimenting, to the diving in and exploring and going deeper with it, and then the completion. Embrace that curiosity and play. Let yourself experiment freely. Dive deep into your work with focus. And when the time comes, celebrate the beauty of completion, of knowing when it's complete, and if you choose to, letting it go into the world. If you're ready to take this concept even further, join us in the Create Collective. Like, what was I going to share? Join us in the Create Collective, because it's a space where we can talk about what we're up to. We can share what we're up to. We can get accountability buddies and, support each other in really fulfilling ways. It's really quite beautiful. Or if you want some feedback on a project that you're working on, I love doing that. I love assessing work and sharing what I see there, really finding out what you are after, because again, you are the only person that really needs to be satisfied. And I love helping people find their way to that place. And I was just working with a client about that this week, and it was so exciting. And what she's doing is amazing. And it'll be so wonderful to see it come out into the world as she envisions it. So thank you so much for joining me today. Remember, the journey is just as important as the destination, if not more so. And there's joy to be found in every step. So until next time, keep creating, keep thriving, and keep finding the pleasure in the process. Thanks for joining me. I will see you again next time.